Thanks, Tom. I don't have the tall guy problem, so I'll just stand here then. It is, first of all, let me just thank you, Tom, for the introduction. Thank you for Trust Vets for recommending me today. And thank you for taking time to listen to what I have to say, which is going to touch down on leadership and goal setting and things that I learned in the military, things that I learned from 1987 to 1991 that still impact my life today. And for starters, I just want to say, as a veteran, it is just an honor to be here with everybody. It's good to be around brothers and sisters again. Any chance I get to support veterans, I'm in, so it's a pleasure to be here. So I'm going to teach you today a little bit of the skills that I learned and applied to my business career. Like I said, I was in the Marines from 1987 to 1991. A little bit about my background. The Marine Corps was my first full-time job. Sure, I worked some construction jobs and little odds and ends as a kid, and they actually, at 16, I probably had a dream job. I was given a jackhammer by a construction company, and I was allowed to break up concrete sidewalks, and I got paid, and they fed me. I didn't think it got any better than that. But at some point, I needed to earn a little bit more money and get my life headed in the right direction, and I was good enough to meet with a Marine recruiter who showed me the way. Nick knows what I'm talking about. And I want to share with you some of the things that I learned in that brief period of time that have stuck with me since I left the Corps in 1991. And leadership for a business is paramount. Leadership in the service is paramount, but it's equally as crucial in your businesses. As you start your business, as you grow your business, as you maintain and expand your business. And so I've had the privilege of training a lot of organizations on leadership. But you're going to get this. You're going to get these concepts today. It's going to make sense to you. You're going to see where they came from. You've experienced all of them in the time that you've invested in serving our country. And I'm going to introduce you to four gentlemen real quick. These are the four gentlemen that I like to say started to beat these, train these techniques into me. And these were my drill instructors. And yes, they are smiling. That's them in a good mood taking their picture. So I enlisted in 1987. Ronald Reagan was my commander-in-chief. Yes, sir. Good times. All I wanted to do was serve our country. I was 18 years old, about to be 18, and I enlisted with one objective is to serve. I didn't know what job I wanted to do. So I actually spoke to my recruiter and said, I just want to be a Marine. I want to serve as a Marine. And I went in open contract. That's why Nick is newly out of the Marine Corps as a recruiter. I realized later I was a recruiter's dream. He said, we can take care of that for you, son. And I went in open contract, and I ended up, after boot camp, being told by my drill instructors that I would be a 7311. And when I asked what that was, he not so nicely said I would be an air traffic controller. I'm going to talk to planes and get out of his face. So I went to a naval air station, and I learned the art and craft of air traffic control. So I learned how to spin a lot of plates. And I got out in 1991, right after the first Gulf War, and I used my GI Bill to go to film school. I was in Southern California, and I started film school. I was a Marine, now in film school. There wasn't a lot of those. I was fired up. When I got my courses from my counselor, I looked at them as orders. I didn't do great in high school, but I graduated from the community college with a 4.0. I was valedictorian, and I was the graduation speaker, and I didn't want to do any speaking. I actually fought against it, and they asked me to do it. And I tied in how my time in the service helped me as a student here. Then I took that degree, and I went to University of Southern California, USC, go Trojans, fight on, and I went to their film school. And so I was in the film industry for a while, and I was pursuing my dreams, my goals. I was happy. Things were going great. I even met the girl of my dreams, Gina, in 1995. And we dated for 3 years. And on Halloween of 1998, we got married. And let me ask you this. What are some goals of a newlywed couple? What goals might a newlywed couple set? Buy a home? Yeah, have children, travel, save for retirement, all those great things. Has anyone in here ever set an important goal and then life threw you a curveball and made it tough to accomplish? Yeah. We had that curveball, and it was 10 months after we were married, Gina got the call from her doctor that she had been diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Her chances for survival were very, very slim. And it was at this point that I had to really rely back on the training I had received earlier to keep things cool, to keep things focused, because her oncologist told me I had to keep her positive. I didn't know how to do that. But what I did find is that I would sit with her and I would talk to her about goals. And it would bring that spark back into her and get her excited again. And that goal-setting process caused her to fight back. And this picture here, that's Gina and I. She now has hair. So we've kind of switched. That was at City of Hope. So her first battle with cancer, and I say first because she's a 4-time survivor. She's been diagnosed 4 times, 4 different cancers. Every single time we set new goals. Goal setting for a leader is paramount. Goal setting is important. And at this point, this stage in the game where that picture was taken was in her room. It was a sterile room at the City of Hope in Duarte, California, where she stayed for 31 days. And you had to scrub down and wear a mask to go see her. And I'm supposed to keep her positive. And we were really struggling. So I was working on her goals, and we talked about getting a house. We wanted a house. And so we were struggling in Southern California to buy a house, but it lit her up, and I had to find a way to do this. So I created a program called the Goal Formula. And I took big goals, and I shrank them down into short-term goals, and I tied in some concepts for the Marine Corps, which I'm going to tie in for a second. But I learned 2 important things during this whole time period, and that's to stay focused. That's to stay focused on your goals. And we never gave up. And I'll tell you, one of the things that her doctors told her is that at 27 years old, not only is it highly unlikely you'll survive, you'll probably never have children. Talk about a big letdown. Talk about something that demoralized her and just destroyed her morale. And then I still had my orders of keeping her positive. So she went into remission in 2000 and beat that cancer. And so what I started doing is I started taking her out and focusing on the goals that we had moved to the back burner when times got tough, right? So you can either succumb to your circumstances or you can embrace the opportunity that's presented to you. As veterans, we understand tough circumstances. There's always an opportunity there. So what I did is I started taking her out, and our friends thought I was nuts. I took her out, and we would go maternity clothes shopping. And we would look at dresses for little girls. I wanted a daddy's girl. I always thought that would be so great to have a daddy's girl. We did this for 6 years. And in 2006, we were blessed with our baby girl, who just turned 9 in August. Part of this message is never give up. Never stop focusing on your goals. Focus on the opportunity at hand, no matter what the circumstances are. If Gina hadn't gotten diagnosed with cancer 4 times, I wouldn't be here sharing great messages with you. And so today is very, very limited in the time. So I'm going to call this my double time session, and all of you know what that means. So we're going to hustle through this. I'm going to give you some amazing, powerful gold nuggets on leadership that you can take back to your teams and apply today and achieve greater results. Fair enough? Okay. So I'm going to pull some things from my book, which happens to be redesigned now with the Dress Blues cover. Hoorah. Yep. And I'm going to talk to you about leadership. Leadership in a business is a tough concept for people. Here's the first gold nugget of the day, something I learned in the Marine Corps. You know how many management courses there are in the military? 0. It's all leadership. We lead people. Here's the first gold nugget you can write down. Manage the workflow, lead the people. Nobody likes to be managed when strong leadership's available. Micromanaged, macromanaged, properly managed. Strong leadership is what people want. You got a challenge with millennials? The Marine Corps recruits, what is it, Nick, 30,000 a year? Yeah. I don't know what the Army and the Navy and the Air Force recruit. They're all millennials. You know what they want? An opportunity and strong leadership. And then you get them to take an oath so you can tell them what to do, right? Keep them in control. So here's one of the other gold nuggets about leadership. In many organizations, people are promoted to the position of leadership. You've done so well, you're now a leader. Good luck to you. but they're not often taught the purpose of being a leader. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It makes sense that everybody that works in your organization should serve a purpose. Leaders should serve elite purposes. So let's talk about those real quick. Leaders enhance perceptions. They get people to see things differently. Leaders elevate priorities. They know how to get things done in the right order. Leaders empower people, and leaders exceed expectations. That's what we do as leaders. And you've got to go in that order. You can't exceed possibilities before you enhance somebody's perceptions. So I'm going to share with you some techniques that I learned in the service on this. And starting off with, how do you apply it into your business? You got to define leadership. You've got to create dynamic communication. You've got to set important goals. And you've got to develop a unifying culture. Why is leadership so challenging for people? It's a big topic. If you look it up on Google right now, you're going to find over 400 million results. Where do you start? If you look on Amazon and you want to buy some resources for your team, there's over 100,000 resources you could purchase on leadership. It's a big concept, and most organizations spend less than 1% of their training time on leadership development. What they train leaders on is hiring, firing, policies, procedures. But that's not leadership. That's more management. Leadership is communication. Leadership is delegation. Leadership is orchestration. Leadership is inspiration. If that's happening in your organizations, you're going to position yourself for goals. So whether you have an existing business or you're starting a business, leadership is the foundation you build everything up on. How do I know that? When I went back into the film industry, I went in entry level. Within 18 months, I was the VP of a company that did duplication and conversion and editorial for companies like MTV, HBO, South Park, Paramount, Universal. And I took that company with the owner's goal of doubling sales, and we built a leadership foundation. He said, we're not going to start with sales first? I said, no, we need a leadership team that can shoulder sales. So we built a leadership foundation and then built sales on top of that, and we grew by 300%, increased margins, increased profits. But it was leaders that did it. Leaders in the entertainment industry, which sometimes always doesn't coincide. We made it coincide because we had important goals. And so today, these are the gold nuggets that I'm going to share with you. First thing, how do you change perception in your team about leadership? How do civilian teams perceive leadership? Does it look like this? That's right. That is the official civilian chain of command. So what is leadership? How do you define it? In the dictionary, it says holding the position or office of a leader. That's the definition of leadership. So by that definition, we're all leaders. Okay, we're all in leadership. So the more important question to your organization, to your business, to your success is this question. What does it mean to be a leader in your company? When I train organizations, I'll sit around a table with 5 leaders from the same company. I hand out this very high-tech training tool called a 3x5 card. I pass it around, and I ask, what does it mean to be a leader in this company? 5 leaders, same company. How many definitions do I get back? 5. There is no defining, unifying meaning of what it means to be a leader in that organization, and they wonder why they have different results. So what does it mean to be a leader? I'll share with you my definition real quick, right out of my book. A leader is a person who clearly identifies a specified destination, which means we're going somewhere, right? And they help course correct people to arrive at that destination by adhering to the greater purpose behind the goals necessary for success. That's powerful. That's a leader. Now, you can create your own definition, but you should have one and share it with your leaders. A person who clearly outlines, you can write that down, a specified destination and guides people there by course correcting and adhering to the greater purpose behind the goals necessary for success. That's leadership. Because leadership, by definition, implies movement, right? You're leading someone, which means people should be following you, which means you should be going somewhere. When your team isn't following you, they might not be clear on the destination. Leaders have crystal clear communication. So how do you judge a leader? How does an organization do that? Some of you are going to recognize this acronym. I train businesses on the 14 leadership traits of the Marine Corps. And when I start off with that, they get a little nervous, saying, well, I don't know about military leadership traits. We don't throw grenades and shoot weapons here. And I said, okay, well, then you might like these. And I asked them, I said, I'm going to share these 14 traits with you. Tell me which ones you don't want in your organization. And since 1775, this is how the Marine Corps builds a foundation of leadership. JJ did tie buckle because we have to have acronyms, right? So I still remember it after all this time. Justice, judgment, dependability. Wouldn't you like to be able to depend on your team more, depend on your leaders more? Initiative. Who doesn't want their team to take more initiative? I know I do. You do. My clients do. Decisiveness, tact. The number one issue of training in organization is communication, and it's the way people are saying things. Tact is a huge, huge training and development session that I do all the time. Integrity, enthusiasm. I'm going to circle back to that one. Bearing, unselfishness, courage, knowledge, loyalty, and endurance. Who wouldn't want that in their organization? The reason I'm going to circle back to enthusiasm is I remember August 2nd, 1990. It was the day before my 21st birthday. I was a corporal in the Marine Corps. Do you know what other day that was? There was a little country named Kuwait that got invaded. I went in peacetime, and then we were going to war. My leaders did not change it to 13 leadership traits. I was still expected to be enthusiastic. Was I enthusiastic about going to war? No. Was I allowed to drop that leadership trait? Absolutely not. Leaders are unwavering. Leaders identify what it means to be a leader in their organization, and they hold everybody to that high standard. They raise expectations. If you set low expectations, your team might hit them. How scary is that? So you have to define what it means to be a leader and identify what those traits and principles are. Luckily, the Marine Corps is good enough to give us 14 leadership traits and 11 leadership principles. And they all translate very well into business. Now I'm going to talk about communication. I'm going to talk about a gentleman named Lewis B. Puller, Chesty Puller, as we affectionately know him. You have your leaders from your respective branches, but I know this gentleman and the most decorated Marine in Marine history. And he was famous for dynamic communication, not just crystal clear, dynamic. But I'm going to share with you a little story of how Chesty inspired 1st Battalion Marines in Korea, specifically at the Chosin Reservoir, one of the bloodiest battles and coldest. And when I train on this concept in California, because I'm originally from California, when I say cold, they're thinking 50 degrees. When I say cold in Minnesota, they get it. They understand what it's like to be cold. So imagine yourself serving our great nation in the 50s and the gear that they had in the 50s. Just think about that. And you're thousands of miles from home. And you're freezing, and you Minnesotans understand that. You're freezing, you're hungry, and you're about to go into battle. You want to hear from a leader at this point, don't you? When times are tough, people want to be led, not managed. Moses did not manage his people out of Egypt. Pretty sure he led them. When it's important, you'll lead. When it's important, you need to lead. So as a young Marine, 17, 18 years old back then, freezing his butt off, here's what his leader had to say. Marines, they're in front of us, behind us, and we are flanked on both sides by an enemy that outnumbers us 29-1. That, folks, is crystal clear communication. Is there any misunderstandings there of how bad the situation is? And you can't Skype mama to say goodbye. They didn't have that back then. What would you think if you received that crystal clear communication from your leader? They're going to box something up, probably me, and send me home. But Chesty did not end his communication right there. He added 7 words that changed crystal clear communication into dynamic communication, and he told 1st Battalion Marines, they can't get away from us now. And 1st Battalion Marines destroyed 7 battalions of enemy soldiers. Some of those men are still alive today. What are your 7 words? What do you say to change communication into dynamic communication to your troops? Powerful stuff. And guess where he was leading them to? Where did they all want to go? Back home. We'll follow you because that destination is important to us. And a lot of them made it home. A lot of them didn't make it out of there, but many made it home. That's true leadership. He's so tied in as a Marine's Marine. Marines say goodnight, Chesty, wherever you are. I have a magazine called Sergeant Grit, and it says if we don't have it, Chesty wouldn't have needed it. It's important to the culture that leaders step up and move their people. All right. Anybody know what this is? I know I'm cutting it on time, so I'm going to speed it up, double timing it here. Okay, this is not chopsticks. They're not popsicle sticks. That's a ladder. A leader without goals is a ladder without the steps, without the rungs. You stay on the ground floor. You go nowhere. You need to elevate. You need to set important goals. And I'm going to share with you in your business what those goals are probably going to fall into 6 categories, 6 pistons that keep your engine going. Financial goals, customer goals, team goals, marketing and operational goals, and community goals. Those are great goals. As a leader, what goals are most important to the individuals in your company? What motivates your team the most? I'm going to share it with you since we're on limited time. Their own personal goals. A leader who gets to know the team's personal goals can motivate them to help you hit the corporate goals, not the other way around. When we grew by 300% in sales, their goals were our focus. Our goals became the vehicle to help them get there. Just a different perception on goal setting.